That's the last one?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Sheridan College Music Theater Ensemble.
Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez accueillir l'Assemblée musicale du Collège Sheridan.
Side. morning. Do your homework. Yes, that's exactly what I said. Do your homework. It was Hazel's most famous line, and the advice she gave to anybody who came to deal with her. So much so, that one time, she sent a cabinet minister a t-shirt that she'd had made up that said, "Do your homework." Because she was having a meeting with him and she didn't think he'd quite done his homework. He got the message. Good morning, my name is Jim Murray, and I'd like to welcome you all here today for the Hazel McCallion State Funeral and a celebration of life on this, Hazel's 102nd birthday. And this clearly would have been her largest birthday celebration ever. Hazel asked two people in Mississauga if we could take charge of organizing a funeral and celebration of life for her at the appropriate time, whatever that might be. My equal partner in that task is David O'Brien, former city manager, who could not be here today, but who has been invaluable in this planning. I thank him for all his contributions on behalf of Mississauga. He was Hazel's closest political advisor, and since he came to Mississauga, he has done that relentlessly for nearly 30 years. I mentioned doing your homework because it's clear to me that all of you here today have done your homework, or you wouldn't be here. You came to the clear conclusion that we all needed to be here today to pay our respects to Hazel McCallion and to honor her life and the enormous contribution she made to the city of Mississauga as the architect of this city. We are pleased to be joined today by Anglican Bishop Andrew Asbill, who is the Chief Pastor of the Toronto Diocese of the Anglican Church of Canada, with pastoral oversight of 102 regional parishes. Bishop Asbill has been the diocese bishop since January 1st, 2019, and he will offer an opening prayer along with some of his own comments. Pastor?
Every once in a while, there are moments in our lives when we recognize how important someone has been to us. And this is such a moment. There are very few of us in this room who have the sphere of influence to be able to summon leaders from across our land. Lieutenant Governor, Prime Ministers past and present, our Premier, our Mayor, and leaders in our communities to speak into this moment. And very few of us have the sway to be able to summon thousands of people to come and to mark this moment and to acknowledge how important one particular soul has been to us. And Hazel McCallion is such a soul. This is a day when we are able, in tribute and remembrance, to mark just how important she was in shaping us as citizens, as constituents, as colleagues, as friends and family. But also gives us opportunity in turn to remember how we shaped and changed her too. And this day also gives us opportunity to mark and give thanks to God for her life and the way that she lived it with us. And her faith as a Christian in the Anglican tradition was so important to her, like a hearth in a home that brings warmth and meaning. It fueled her sense of devotion lifelong in serving community, of loving God, loving neighbor, loving herself. And so as a beginning, I offer two prayers that come from the Anglican tradition, words that would have been very familiar to Hazel. One is a prayer for us who continue our pilgrimage, and one commending her soul to God's keeping. And whatever your faith tradition or your expression, I invite you in this time simply to be present in this moment of stillness. Let us pray. God of grace and glory, we thank you for Hazel, who was so near and dear to us, and who is now being taken from us. We thank you for the friendship she gave and for the strength and peace she brought. We thank you for the love she offered and received while she was with us on earth. We pray that nothing good in her life will be lost, but will be of benefit to the world, that all that was important to her will be respected by those who follow, and that everything in which she was great will continue to mean much to us now that she is dead. We ask you that she may go on living in her children and grandchildren, her family and her friends, in their hearts and minds, in their courage and their consciences. We ask you that we who are close to her may now, because of her death, be even closer to each other, and that we may, in peace and friendship here on earth, always be deeply conscious of your promise to be faithful to us in death. May God grant us courage and confidence to meet the days to come, giving thanks, loving God, for your presence in our lives. Amen. And a prayer of commendation. Into your hands, O merciful Savior, we commend your servant Hazel. Acknowledge, we pray, a sheep of your own fold, a lamb of your own flock, a sinner of your own redeeming. Receive her into the arms of your mercy, into the blessed rest of everlasting peace, and into the glorious company of the saints in light. Rest eternal grant to her, O Lord, and let light perpetual shine upon her. May her soul and the souls of all that departed through the mercy of God rest in peace. Amen.
When it was decided that a reading or a few readings would be appropriate for this service, I went to visit Hazel because you understand, Hazel made all the arrangements for here today. Do not be confused. I went to Hazel to get her input on who might be the right person to speak and to do such a reading. I came with a few ideas. She didn't know I was coming. And I suggested a person who I felt might be appropriate. And her response was, no. I suggested a second person who was a good friend and a very faithful supporter of hers, and her response was, no. I then asked her if she wanted to think a little bit about who that should be, and I'd come back, and she looked at me like I had two heads and said, Dave Toyson, World Vision. Like, are you crazy? Can you not figure that out? World Vision is a wonderful organization. Dave Tyson has been and still is one of the most prominent members of the congregation of Hazel's Trinity Anglican Church. Dave Tyson is the former CEO of World Vision. World Vision is recognized in countless developing nations for their international efforts to improve the lives of many, many people. Apart from that, he has for many years been a close friend of Hazel's and she has obviously selected him to do this reading. Mr. Tyson.
Hazel McCallion was a Christian all her life. It was her anchor in a busy and demanding profession. The gospel reading is a comfort at the end of the earthly life. They're the words of Jesus. At the same time, Hazel developed strong relationships with other faith communities as well. She respected them and she worked very well with them. The reading that I'm sharing today is from the Gospel of John, and it's Jesus speaking comfort to his followers. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. The word of the Lord. Amen.
As special guests here today, we have the absolute pleasure of having the Sheridan College choral singers. They are very talented. Hazel, as most of you know, was their first and has been their only chancellor, and she was their greatest cheerleader, no question. They reached out to us, Sheridan did, and said, we would like to be a part of this service, and we would like to send our choral singers to do some hymns for you. They're an amazing group of young people, and we're thrilled that they could be part, and Hazel was thrilled that they were coming. Ladies and gentlemen, the Sheridan College singers will do the hymn Amazing Grace.
Saved a wretch like
The Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, the Honourable Elizabeth Dowdeswell, was installed in September 2014. She is the ideal representative of His Majesty the King in Ontario and always carries herself with dignity, good grace, and is an absolutely fine example of what can be the best of Canadians. I'm aware that when Hazel was not well, the Lieutenant Governor took the time to reach out to her in a kind and caring manner, and this meant a great deal to Hazel. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honourable Elizabeth Dowdeswell, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario.
Good morning. It is a privilege to be here today to pay tribute to Hazel McCallion on behalf of the people of Ontario and to celebrate her remarkable life. Une vie remarquable. The presence of elected officials of all orders of government, prime ministers, premier, mayors, joining citizens from neighborhoods far and wide gives evidence of the gratitude that we feel for someone who has touched so many lives. Hazel McCallion's life was a life of purpose, and she was ever present with us with endless generosity of time, energy, and spirit. We all thought we knew her, and no doubt expected her to be with us forever. She was consistently described in superlatives by the media, a force of nature. At the time of Hazel's 101st birthday, she was quoted as saying, "If you build a solid foundation, no one can ruin it." From her childhood, growing up the youngest of 5 in small-town Quebec during the Great Depression, to her historical handling of the Mississauga train derailment less than 1 year into her first term as mayor of Mississauga, to her astonishing success as she shepherded a fledgling Toronto suburb into what has become Canada's 6th largest city. We could spend an entire afternoon retelling stories of Hazel's life, accomplishments, and her humor, of how her own sound foundation actually came to be. Indeed, she was a trailblazer, an innovator, a fighter, a pragmatist, just getting things done. But Hazel left us with something else too, and that is a profound understanding of the impact that one single person can have by virtue of the impact she had, the impact on women, on young people, on citizens and their institutions. Others will tell you many of those stories. But from my unique observation post, I want to reflect on a lifetime of service, an abiding preoccupation with the public interest, and her significant contribution to our precious democracy. It was in the 1970s when she joined an exclusive club, becoming one of the first female mayors in Canada, clearing the way for many more who would follow her in the years to come. And some indeed did call her a pathfinder par excellence. Yes, she was convinced of the imperative of women's representation, but she was even more fundamentally convinced of the need for our governments to be inclusive, to generally genuinely reflect who we are as we create the rules by which we choose to live together harmoniously in times of both challenge and change. Hazel was a politician who focused not on our differences, but rather on the commonalities that would bind us together, because to her, everyone mattered, regardless of their station in life. She believed strongly in local government as the voice of people, and in the power of municipal governments and their ability to make a dramatic difference in the lives of their constituents. She encouraged citizens to be more than mere observers, but to be active participants. To her, that meant informing and educating the public on the issues so that they were sufficiently armed with the knowledge necessary to actually challenge politicians to be held to account and to do more for their communities. She also understood implicitly that good governance must be bidirectional, that at its core it required from those elected the readiness to listen, to be advised, to encourage, and to inspire. And then, with loyalty, she gave us honesty. You were never in doubt as to where the mayor stood on any issue. Tough but fair, uncompromising but kind. Hazel was driven in all that she did by a fierce desire to make things better for the people around her. Reminiscing about Hazel recently, I was reminded of the words of Robert Baden-Powell, who once said, "Try and leave this world a little better when you found it. And when your turn comes to die, you can die happy in feeling that at any rate, you have not wasted your time, but have done your best." Without question, the thousands of people from across the province and country who have responded to her passing will agree that she did just that, her very best. Hazel was a proud Canadian. Today, then, let us consider not only her many achievements, but also her aspirations. She knew that as a country we were not perfect, but that we are capable of continuous improvement. And she envisioned for us, for this province, and for this country, a bold and ambitious country that makes the most of its physical and human resources in the interest of an even better future. A country that is sustainable and resilient, and a caring and nurturing country that embraces all, that creates space for everyone's contribution. Our sincere condolences to the McCallion family. May you sense and celebrate her significance in so many lives. She will be long and fondly remembered. Hazel, may you rest in peace, knowing that we commit to working together to carrying on your legacy as we seek a bright future.
Shortly after Premier Ford was elected to commence his first term as Premier of Ontario, he reached out to Hazel McCallion to serve as a special advisor on municipal affairs. Hazel accepted that role. She said that she would be pleased to be an advisor, although she really wasn't interested in any compensation, because she felt it would be easier to criticize the government if she hadn't been paid. Typical Hazel. As time went on, she became a very loyal fan of Premier Ford for a multitude of reasons and provided him with sage advice over his tenure. Premier Ford, your involvement here today is a strong statement of your respect for the contributions Hazel has made for decades, not only in Mississauga or the region of Peel, but right across this province of Ontario. Mr. Premier, as you visited with Hazel in your last days, your friendship and concern for the comfort and emotional support for the entire McCallion family was remarkable. And I know they greatly appreciated your kindness at this very difficult time. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honourable Premier Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario.
Thank you so much, Jim. Your Honor, Bishop, Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, Premier, Senators, and Mayors, and everyone else that's here today, thank you. Thank you for coming. Hazel McCallion was a giant. Not in literal sense, of course. She was a woman who was in command of every discussion she had, every debate she waged, every room she entered. There isn't a single person who met Hazel who didn't leave in awe of her force of personality. Throughout her life, whether on the ice, in a boardroom, or on the floor of the council chamber, everyone knew Hazel was a force to be reckoned with. And if you didn't, you quickly found out. Hazel never hesitated to say what was on her mind, not for a second. And she was always right. That's because she never lost sight of why she entered public life: to serve the people. No politician in the country understood the grassroots better than Hazel did. From her regular stops at the local Tim's to her weekly breakfasts at Orchards, she kept close to the pulse of the people. Her commitment to community and community building was second to none. She was always fighting for the underdog, the people who never had a champion. Hazel believed in them. She believed in their potential. That's because Hazel herself heard her fair share of no's. She grew up in a time that told her she was less than a man, that she didn't belong in the rooms where decisions were made. She grew up in a time that told her she should temper her ambition and drive to serve. Hazel refused to accept that. She never fit the mold, and she proved the naysayers wrong. That's what made Hazel such a trailblazer. She was an icon, a legend. She was Hurricane Hazel. It's only fitting that we gather today to pay our respects on what would have been her 102nd birthday. Hazel, happy birthday. Today is a day long celebrated here in Mississauga and across Ontario. Today is a day to celebrate and remember Hazel. Her force of will was clear in everything she did, but never more obvious than her 36 years as mayor of Mississauga, the longest-serving mayor in Mississauga's history. It's a record that won't soon be beat. That's because Hazel loved her community. She dedicated her long life to building Mississauga, to serving it, and making it the city it is today. She led the transformation of Mississauga into one of Canada's largest, most vibrant cities, a city brimming with potential. Her mark on her community can be found in many places and organizations that bear her name: schools and centers for healing and care, Canada Day Parade, a softball league, and a World Cup hockey trophy, a cultural center, this very place we honor her today. And my personal favorite is the Hazel McCallion line. Hazel touched the hearts of millions of people, not only in Mississauga, but across Canada, across the world. And Hazel was so proud to have passed on her legacy to Mayor Crombie, who shares her same sense of civic duty and passion for the city they both love. I count myself incredibly lucky to have called Hazel my friend over these past many years. She was a gift. More than a friend, she was a mentor. As I entered in the world of politics, I was fortunate to learn from her. I'll always cherish our Saturday morning conversations over breakfast, during which she shared with me her wisdom and guidance. Wisdom and guidance that I'll never forget or take for granted. Wisdom and guidance that kept the people at the center of her purpose. And wisdom and guidance that she selflessly offered until the very end. Peter, Linda, and Paul, thank you for sharing your mother with Ontario and Canada for so many years. Public service is a family's calling. You made countless sacrifices in support of your mother, and she was so incredibly proud of you. The week before she passed, I paid Hazel a visit. At one point during our conversation, her face lit up. She turned and pulled out one of her signature miniature race cars, one that I know a few of us here have received. In it was an equally miniature Hazel, her plastic head bobbing alongside the excitement. She grabbed a marker and wrote on the bottom, "To my favorite premier, love Hazel." That little red race car embodies the best of Hazel. Always on the move, never slowing down, not even in her later years. Excited about the promise of what came next, always leading with love. Mississauga is a better city, Ontario is a better province, and Canada is a better country because of the amazing life of Hazel McCallion. Until the very end, she never lost what made Hazel great: her signature wit, her generosity. She was relentless, funny, kind, and giving. In those final moments, I did what any friend would. I took her hand and offered her as much comfort as I could. I told her, "I love you, Hazel." Those words will stay with me until my last moment. I love you, Hazel, forever. Rest easy, my friend. And may God bless your soul, and may God bless the greatest mayor this country has ever seen. Thank you.
Premier Ford, that was a very special speech. And what you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, that speech was given without a single note. And the reason it was done without a single note is I was supposed to take the Premier's notes and put them up on the podium. And I apologize to you, sir, for not doing that, but it was one of the finest addresses I've ever heard you give. Hazel told me many times that she really got to know Prime Minister Trudeau, the person, instead of the Prime Minister, when they both ended up by chance at a hotel in Europe. It was a small hotel, and throughout their stay, he and Hazel talked politics, because there was very little else to do in the evening, and they shared advice on how to solve the problems of the world. I suspect, knowing my friend Hazel, he did a lot of listening. Oh, to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. Hazel left that chance meeting, and a few days with a lifelong respect for Justin Trudeau, the man. And a relationship was formed that has endured to this very day. Prime Minister, your attendance today speaks volumes to the nearly 800,000 residents of Mississauga and speaks to your respect for our most famous citizen. It is truly a significant honor to have you with us here today to share your thoughts. While we honor this special lady, I know you mourn with us over our tremendous loss. Ladies and gentlemen, the Right Honourable Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I brought my own notes. Present and former leaders, dignitaries, people of Mississauga, and of course, Hazel's family and loved ones. It is an honor to be here with you to pay my respects to our great friend, Hazel McCallion. I must admit, though, it feels a little strange to be here today. Hazel was so unstoppable, I think we all felt she was going to live forever. Last time I spoke with her was just a couple of weeks ago. We talked about how the North American Leaders Summit went. She told me I had to keep pushing hard for Canadian jobs and workers during President Biden's upcoming visit to Canada, and of course I said I would. It was impressive that she was still working hard herself and always putting people first. Despite her illness, she was, as ever, fierce, passionate, and engaged. Les conseils et la sagesse de Hazel vont me manquer, tout comme son amitié. Now, as many of you heard, last year, I went bungee jumping. My kids, among others, questioned that maybe I was getting a little too old for that kind of nonsense at 50. So I told them the story of how 15 years ago on that trip to Italy with Sophie, that Jim mentioned, I ran into Hazel and joined her on one of the longest, highest, and fastest zip lines in the world. Il Volo dell'Angelo, a zip line between two mountain peaks. Then in her late 80s, Hazel was not just the oldest elected official to ever do the zip line, she was one of the oldest people, period, to do it. But that's just who Hazel was. She wouldn't let anything stop her, ever. Aujourd'hui, Hazel aurait eu 102 ans. Alors que le monde entier célèbre la Saint-Valentin, ici en Ontario, le 14 février, c'est aussi le jour officiel de Hazel McCallion. In a way, she will live forever, and not just because she has a day to her name, but because of her legacy. Because she will always be remembered as someone who worked hard and delivered every day for people. She was a business person, an athlete, and of course, one of Canada's longest-serving mayors. Hazel a été chancelière du Collège Sheridan et conseillère spéciale à l'Université de Toronto à Mississauga. C'était important pour elle que nos jeunes reçoivent la meilleure éducation possible. Elle a aussi occupé la présidence des colloques des villes santé de l'Organisation mondiale de la santé et elle a milité pour mettre fin à la discrimination contre les aînés. Paul, Linda, and Peter will miss her as a mother. Erica will miss her as a grandmother. And we'll all miss her as an inspiration. She was an inspiration for generations of women and girls. During her campaign in 1978, she was told a woman couldn't run Mississauga. Well, she went on to run it, and run it well, for 36 years. Elle a inspiré des générations de leaders qui appréciaient sa force et sa franchise. Hazel loved to point out that when she first became mayor, there were cows and horses grazing where Mississauga's core is today. During her term, Mississauga grew to become the 6th largest municipality in the country. She was a true nation builder in a nation of builders. That's one of the reasons I know that Canada can overcome any challenge, how we roll up our sleeves to build a better future. And Hazel exemplified that, and exemplified what Canadians know, that with hope and hard work, there's nothing we can't achieve. Born over a century ago, she lived through many difficult moments in our history, but no matter the challenges, her approach never changed. People should always come first. She was there to positively empower people, while of course reminding them to do their homework. She often publicly said that she was never interested in running provincially or federally. She said she wouldn't have been any good at following the party line. I'm sure my father and I weren't the only prime ministers to wonder how great but challenging she might have been as a minister, before realizing it was most likely a bit of a moot point. We probably would have ended up as ministers serving in her cabinet. No matter what, She always held true to her belief of putting people at the center of everything we do. And this should always be the priority for every elected official, for every order of government now and into the future. For all of us, let that be the enduring lesson and legacy of the great Hazel McCallion. We'll miss you, my dear friend.
Prime Minister Trudeau, I would only like to add one thing to what you said, and that is, I had the joy one time of being in that very village and going to that very peak where the zip line goes from one mountain top to another with a deep valley in between that when you look down, you would think you were looking at toy trains. It is incredibly high. It was so difficult to understand that Hazel McCallion had done that zip line not just over, but over and back, that I picked up my phone and I called her from there and woke her up. And I asked her, is it true that you went across this zip line? And she said, of course. Of course was not the answer I was looking for. It was an incredible experience. People can't conceive of how deep that valley was. It was thousands of feet. When Hazel decided to retire after 12 elections, Bonnie Crombie decided to run for mayor. It could have been described as the most difficult election anybody could face, following Hazel McCallion. Who would want to follow in the footsteps of Hazel McCallion? All of us here who live in Mississauga heard many, many times that people would say, whoever follows Hazel will be a one-term wonder. Well, I can tell you one thing. Bonnie Crombie, Mayor Crombie, is just starting her third term, and she is anything but a one-term wonder. With a sense of good grace, a strong sense of humor, and an outstanding understanding of the foundations laid by Hazel McCallion, Mayor Crombie frequently introduced Hazel at community events by saying that Mississauga had a mayor and a spare. That was quite true. She rarely went to a function that Hazel wasn't there, getting as large an applause as anyone could. Mississauga is blessed to have strong municipal government based on the foundations laid by Hazel in many ways. Hazel's legacy continues to this day at City Hall, as I know the mayor and the incredible City Council continue to do their homework. Ladies and gentlemen, our mayor, Her Worship, Bonnie Crombie.
Bonjour, Ane, Bonjour, Dzień dobry. Welcome to Mississauga. Thank you to all of you who have gathered here with us today. On behalf of the City of Mississauga and the people who continue to call this city their home, I would like to offer my deepest condolences to Peter, to Linda, to Paul, to Erica, Deborah, Karen and Mark, and the entire McCallion family who are grieving the loss of their mother, their grandmother and great aunt. Mississauga mourns with you. Hazel touched the lives of so many in Mississauga and beyond. I'd also like to acknowledge the Prime Minister Trudeau, Premier Ford, Lieutenant Governor, and former Prime Minister Chrétien, and all the dignitaries who have joined us today, including our council members and mayors from across the province who are in attendance. Thank you all for being here. I know how much she meant to all of you. And to Premier Ford, a special thank you to you for making this state funeral possible. I know how close the two of you had become. It's only fitting as we gather here today in the Paramount Centre, one of the many reminders of the importance she placed on women in sports. Being mayor maybe was her calling, but hockey was her passion. And I'm so glad we can honor her memory in a place that she built where she was known to steal away for a few private skates. I know she would have loved the hockey theme and having the women's gold medal players here to pay their respects. She never missed an opportunity to cheer Canadian women on in sports. And I vividly remember that time when Hazel and Fran Ryder and we all found each other in Vancouver for the 2010 Olympics, and we watched our women's hockey team bring home the gold medal. And what an exciting game it was. Haley Wickenheiser's swan song and her third gold medal. The women made us so proud. Oh, by the way, the men got gold that year too. In a different era, who knows? Maybe she would have laced up for Team Canada too. Hazel was a woman known by many names: Mom, Nana, Madam Mayor, Her Worship, the Hurricane, a reflection of the many hats she wore at the same time, juggling them all while always being present and full of energy and passion. She was our matriarch, the architect of our city. We join today to mark the end of an era. She built our city in her vision and through her stewardship. It was a city that we chose because of Hazel to live in, to work in, to play in, to pray in, to invest in, and to raise our children in. And it is the finest city in Canada. It is fair to say that we all thought, like the Queen, Hazel would live forever. And in a way, she will. She will always live forever in our hearts. When we look around Mississauga, we are reminded of her legacy in the buildings, the parks, and the open spaces, and the people she welcomed from around the world. She left an indelible mark. Hazel was the Mrs. in Mississauga, and the city will not be the same without her. I too visited her in her final days and can attest to how strong and vigorous and may I say, feisty she was and continued to be. There was not much that could slow her down. We all know that she was truly a force of nature. She demonstrated that fearless leadership and tenacity she became so well known for shortly after winning her first election as mayor, when she saw and oversaw the 1979 train derailment, which at the time was the largest evacuation in North American history. At a time of great uncertainty and panic, Hazel remained strong, steady, and decisive, continuing to deliver regular updates, despite spraining her ankle while helping residents evacuate. That was just the first part of a long, illustrious career at City Hall, but it set the tone. No matter what the circumstances, Hazel would always show up for the people of Mississauga. She spent 36 years serving as mayor. And during that time, made Mississauga the envy of the world. As a trailblazing woman in politics and a no-nonsense city builder, she set the framework for our future and transformed Mississauga from farmland and fruit trees to the growing urban city that we are today, a powerhouse in the province of Ontario. Her influence reached and extended well beyond our borders, where she helped shape Ontario's municipal sector, inspiring countless and former mayors, and leading the charge to establish the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus, which today, to this very day, remains a strong and powerful voice at Queen's Park and on Parliament Hill. And let's not forget that she was the runner-up as the World Mayor in 2005. Her reach certainly did extend beyond our borders. Hazel earned a seat at the decision-making table wherever she went. And it's fair to say that she not only opened the door for women in politics and in business, but she smashed right through it. And she helped open it and helped us realize our full potential. During her tenure as mayor, Mississauga led the way with women in leadership positions long before it was fashionable. She always said, if you do the work, you will succeed, and created a meritocracy where everyone had an equal opportunity to succeed, and more women secured seats on council and in positions of leadership at our city than ever before. We welcomed our first female city manager and others, including a female chief of police, our chief of Mississauga Fire and Emergency Services, the CEO of Trillium Health Partners, 2 of them in fact, CEO of the United Way, and so many more. As she used to always say, think like a man, act like a lady, and work like a dog. And she took that advice to heart. Of course, she was in a class of her own. We were incredibly progressive when it came to female representation at the highest levels of leadership long before others, and that is largely because of the example that Hazel set. And what an example. Hazel and I initially bonded of our love for arts and culture, and we worked together to strengthen the art scene in Mississauga through the Blue Ribbon Panel for the Arts in the mid-2000s. And we were looking for ways to help fund the arts and make it that funding more sustainable. In fact, as you heard, she was the one who encouraged me to run for City Council in 2011. When Prime Minister, I took the early retirement package from federal politics. And just a few years later, She was the one who encouraged me to put my name forward for mayor. Now, don't get me wrong. She encouraged everyone to run for office, but especially women. One day, I got a call that Hazel wanted to see me. Here I am, a lowly counselor down the hall, and honestly, I thought I was in trouble. Getting called into Hazel's office was like getting called into the principal's office. That long walk down the hallway with your knees shaking the entire time because you're trying to figure out what you did wrong this time. But much to my surprise, she confided in me that she was thinking of retiring. Retiring, I said. God bless you. You deserve some retirement. You're 92 years old. You've had 12 terms as mayor. You've given so much of yourself and your life to our city. And then she looked at me and she said, I think you should consider putting your name in the race. Whew. I knew right then and there I had to run for mayor. That while achieving her trust required hard work, accepting it required responsibility. Hazel single-handedly changed my destiny that day, while also helping us write the next chapter of our city's history. Hazel was Mississauga through and through, and it was her efforts that built us into the city that we are today. The last time we spoke, she told me how proud she was of my council and how we handled the pandemic and our recovery from it. And when I asked her what would be next, she looked at me and she said, I'm winking at the Premier, independence. It's time for Mississauga to stand on her own 2 feet, she'd say. A single-tier independent city. She said, it's long overdue. That was my best Hazel. And she was right. Those were her words. It was clear even long after her time in politics, she never stopped lending her voice, and she never stopped moving. She campaigned for the causes that she cared about in the community, including founding Hazel's Hope, supporting Trillium Health Partners, our hospital network, the Hazel McCallion Foundation, Sheridan College, the GTAA, and the countless community organizations that do such great work in our city. I'll miss the time we spent together on weekends and in the evenings, whether it was all the ribbon cuttings or having breakfast at Bobby's or at the Orchard, raising funds for charity together, walking in parades, or speaking side by side at festivals such as her beloved Carasaga, which she founded, of course, Canada's largest multicultural festival. It was remarkable that for the last 9 years, she still made it a priority to attend as many community events as she possibly could. And I will cherish those moments and hold them near and dear to my heart forever. Everything she did was for the betterment of our city, to ensure that even long after her time, that Mississauga would continue to thrive. We can all take solace now in the fact that she is finally at peace and with her beloved husband, Sam. Hazel is forever part of our history, and we are forever part of hers. Happy 102nd birthday, my dear friend. Hazel, may you finally have some time to rest. It's been a job well done, and we thank you. And we all love you, and we'll all miss you, and you will live forever in our hearts. Thank you.
When Hazel and I talked about this, this day that none of us thought would come or wanted to come. She said, "You know, Jim, you need to understand that if you don't inject something with a little bit of humor now and again, they'll all go to sleep." And I said to her, I didn't think, Hazel, it was the kind of day when we should try to be a comedian. And she said, just once in a while. So I'm going to tell you a quick little anecdote. As most of you know, there were 25 Hazel McCallion galas. But my favorite story, other than the night we opened the Living Arts Centre and Premier Harris was kind enough to take all of my notes off the podium when he took his. I've never thanked you properly for that. Regis Philbin was going to be the entertainer. And his office reached out to me as I was the MC and I was chairing it that year. And he said, his office said, he'd like to speak to you about Mississauga. And then could you arrange that he could speak with Madam Mayor? So on a Wednesday, I got him on the phone, his office on the phone, and he came on and he asked me a lot of questions about Mississauga, which I was quite impressed because he wanted to know what Mississauga was. I said it's about the 6th largest city in Canada. He said, no, that's Winnipeg. And I said, let's get Hazel on the phone before I get too many more questions wrong. So we got her on the phone and he said, hello, Hazel, it's Regis Philbin here. Do you watch my show? And she said, no. There was a little bit of a pause, and he said, well, Hazel, have you ever seen my show? No, never. You think I'm making this up, and I'm not. There was dead silence. It was like somebody had shot him in the middle of the conversation. I finally broke the silence by saying, it's okay, I had to explain to her who Bill Cosby was. And he said, oh, I feel so much better now. But then he had her on his show 3 times after the gala. That's the kind of person she was with people. For our second reading today, I'd like to call on Chief Emmanuel Mabulu. The chief came to Canada from Nigeria to get his university education here. And after 2 outstanding degrees obtained here, he decided Canada would be his permanent home. He's built a highly successful business, and as a citizen and a member of our community here, he has made philanthropy and giving back his way of life. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Mabulu.
Hazel was a very dear friend. We connected spiritually. I'm going to miss her. The second reading is taken from the Old Testament, Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. the Word of God. Amen.
Chief Mabulo, you are a role model for what new Canadians can and do add to the value of this country. I just wanted you to know that the Chief was personally chosen by Hazel because she was so proud of the contributions he's made to this country since he made it his home. In 2014, when Hazel decided it was time to retire, the Hazel McCallion Foundation for Arts, Culture and Heritage hosted a farewell fundraising evening at the International Centre, attended by some 2,000 citizens. Unbeknownst to Hazel, we planned to have a special guest arrive just as dinner was to commence. We left a seat vacant at the table, and she had no idea who it would be. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that the surprise arrival of former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien was the absolute highlight of that farewell evening, not only for Hazel, but for all the attendees there to bid her farewell. Mr. Chrétien, you were the first person she mentioned to me that she wanted to invite here today, the absolute first name that ever came to her. She strongly believed you were a superb leader of Canada, a man of outstanding character, integrity, and the common touch. The common touch that she valued so much in life. It was a common touch that she was proud to share with you. She always thought of you as a man of the people, which is how she thought of herself as a lady of the people, always creating in her mind a very close bond with all the citizens. You were her role model. Ladies and gentlemen, the Right Honourable Jean Chrétien, former Prime Minister of Canada.
La famille de Madame McCallion, Prime Minister, Premier, Reverend Lieutenant Governor, et mes chers amis. And good morning, Mississauga. I have not given a speech in quite a long time, so when I was invited and told I will be addressing a gathering of thousands of people, I thought to myself, great, I will have 30 minutes and I have a lot to share. Then I heard Hazel voice in my head, Jean, keep it clear and keep it short. Just like me. Quand j'étais sur l'estrade avec Hazel, quand nous étions les personnalités de l'occasion, on se disait l'un à l'autre, il n'y a pas grand personne ici à Mississauga qui savent que nous venions tous les deux du Québec rural. Elle venait de la Gaspésie et moi de la Mauricie. C'est ça le Canada. For the few of you who did not understand me, I'll repeat in English. When I was in a stage like that with Hazel, with a lot of people, we will tell to each other, there are not many people down there that knows that we're both from rural Quebec. She was from Gaspésie, and I was from La Mauricie. And what a good example of what is Canada. That we have the opportunity here in this land, whoever we are, whatever is the color, the language, the religion, we can all move up in society. And Hazel McCallion was one of a kind. In all my travels and meetings with leaders around the globe, I have never met any politician like Hazel. She was always to the point, very clear, very determined, very hardworking, no nonsense, and successful. And I think that, you know, she had a big heart. And there is no coincidence at all that she was born on February the 14th. She made a difference for this city, taking 4 small cities and making a very vibrant city, very independent and extremely successful. In my course of my career, I never thought that I will retire before. In fact, once at a meeting, I was with Lloyd Robertson of CTV, myself, and Hazel, and we kind of agreed that we should leave together. So when I quit at 70, she called me to give me hell. What happened to you? As Hazel, compared to you, I'm a chicken. So I'm gone, because I cannot be as tough as you are. You know, it's very rare in a country that we have a personality like Hazel McCallion. 36 years in politics. Oh, I beat her, but as a mayor. I was a little bit more than that as member of parliament. But she was always an example. She was unique. It was energy all the time when she was there. And I think she will be missed. And I'm sure that when she arrived up there, St. Peter said to her, "Well done, Hazel." Et pour moi, je vais vous dire que she was the best. Vive Hazel McCallion.
For the final reading today, I would like to call on this isn't a message to the Prime Minister, but I'd like to call on the only senator from Mississauga, Senator Victor Rowe, who most of you know he's been a community man for many, many years and an outstanding individual. He came to Canada from Singapore, and once he made Canada his home, he has worked tirelessly to build a strong and vibrant business in a number of sectors. He's the only senator from Mississauga, and we are honored that he accepted Hazel's request to do a reading today, along with his own personal comments. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Victor Rowe.
Good morning. Mayor Hazel McCallion is a true champion and believer of multiculturalism and diversity in our great country. Mayor Hazel, compassion and giving voice to those that less fortunate are part of what makes for a terrific public servant. I will always try to visit as many schools as possible, especially schools with high population of new Canadians. And you know what? So often these kids can teach the mayor a thing or two. With stories they tell me and poems they write. I was so moved by a book and poems and life stories by grade 5 students for my visit to St. Veronica Elementary School. One story struck me. It was from a boy that born in the Philippines. He thanked me for Mississauga, a safe home that keeps him dry at night, unlike the home of said matter he once lived in. And he thanked me for the clean water to drink in Mississauga. He thanked me. I want to thank him because with an attitude like that, I'm sure he will grow up into a fine young man and be an asset to our great country. My friendship with Hazel spanned over 30 years. Amongst the countless cherished memories I share with her, I often reminisce our trips to Asia, where I witnessed her curiosity, respect, and appreciation for different cultures. Hazel's admiration for cultural diversity and commitment to community service facilitated the transformation of the great city of Mississauga into one of the most culturally diverse communities in the country. Hazel, on behalf of all Asian Canadians in Mississauga, we thank you for all you have done for our community. I will always treasure your guidance and our friendship. Rest in peace, 安息，老人一路走好。My friend, you will always be in my heart. Happy Valentine, happy birthday, Hazel. Thank you.
Hazel's very dear friend, Fran Ryder, is a lady that not maybe a lot of you know, but she is a person that every one of you should get to know. She's the president and CEO of the Ontario Women's Hockey Association. She's also Hazel's closest and best friend. During Hazel's recent health decline, Fran packed up her computer from her office, hooked it up in a spare bedroom in Hazel's home, and spent every day working from the house, along with Hazel's son, Peter, her friends, Amy and Kay, her niece, Debbie, grandniece, coordinating the many visitors who wanted to come and spend time with Hazel. The list was endless. Word does spread fast. Fran kept the date book and was the true gatekeeper. At the end of the day, she would pack up and head to her home in Innisfil sometime around 8 o'clock in the evening, only to return the next day and do it all over again. That was until the last 10 days, when she simply stayed at the house 24 hours a day. It has been said that between Hazel McCallion and Fran Ryder, trailblazers that they are responsible for women's hockey becoming an Olympic sport. I had heard that a number of times from people in the sporting and in the political world. And since I'd been told that, I did my homework, and then I went to speak to Hazel and asked her, and she told me that she did indeed assist Fran in a small way in a push for women's hockey as an Olympic sport, but that Fran Ryder was the real difference maker in getting the sport added to the Olympics. You can see this legacy today with the Canadian women's hockey gold medal finalists as our pallbearers. Every one of us in this room and everyone in this city would be better people if each of us had a friend who is nice a person as Fran Ryder is. She's one of Canada's real difference makers. She's dedicated, she's hardworking, she's smart, but she's very caring. On top of which, she is Canada's most influential women's hockey executive, and she is Hazel's personal choice to speak of a lasting friendship. Fran.
Happy birthday, Hazel. Dignitaries, McCallion family, friends of Hazel, which is everyone here. Hazel was a true superstar. She was a leader who developed her knowledge and skills. She did her homework, as you've heard, and that meant listening and caring. And she came in with a solid game plan. She was a leader who recognized the importance of great teammates, who believed in her and she believed in them. She always had her eye on the win, but if she did not win, she regrouped and she came back even stronger. Hazel made her teammates better. She made her opponents, which were only opponents to a certain degree, they were true friends as well. She made them better, and therefore she made the world better. It was people that she cared about. That's what drove her. Every person was important to her. And she'd go to 15 activities every day, and some individual would come up to her as they saw her at night, "Can you help me?" And Hazel said, "I want to help you." She had a true vision for a better world, and she certainly has made Mississauga, Canada, and the world, and Ontario better places today. Hazel truly loved her family, and she had great pride in providing support and encouragement to Peter, Linda, Paul, Erica, and the extended family here today. She'd be so pleased you were here today. Her niece Debbie fondly remembers that in times of need, Hazel would always be there. If you needed her, she was there. And that was true in her friendship as well. She often spoke of her younger days growing up in Port Daniel, a fishing village on the Gaspé coast. She loved the ocean, she loved nature, and she loved dogs. Hazel had a very strong connection to her family, and she had a very strong connection to her many, many friends. I first met Hazel through women's hockey. We quickly became very good friends and colleagues, sharing a positive vision for the future, stronger opportunities for women, a desire for all people to succeed, and to get women's hockey into the Olympics. This impossible dream became a reality in 1998. Now Canadian fans and fans in 40 other countries can cheer for their women's teams, and their players become leaders in sport. And equally as important, these players become leaders in their countries. One of Hazel's happiest moments was in this very building. She loved Mississauga, she loved this building, and of course she loved people. In 2000, the IHF Women's World Hockey Championship was in this building. The event was going amazingly. We have some players here that were stars in that event and other events. She would love that you were here. And everything was going really well. The games were going well, the media was covering it, the women's game was gaining exposure, people were thrilled with the talent on and off the ice. Until Canada and US did play in the final game, but Canada was down 2-0 going into the third period. And thanks to Jana Hefford, we tied that up and won in overtime. Canada won the gold medal in overtime. Many dignitaries were in attendance, and as everyone knows, there's very tightly scripted protocols. But when Canada scored that goal, Hazel didn't give a darn about protocols. She bolted from that room, and the first security guard looked at her to tackle her and decided better than that, so he let her go, which was a very smart decision. And Hazel came charging down the stairs and came as close as she could to the players because she truly loved the players. She didn't want to be a spectator. She wanted to be part of the game. And she truly was. So she's very, very fitting. Hazel had a hat trick. Her city, her team, her building. Thanks so much for the players for making that happen. Hazel was a superstar in so many sectors of life. As a young woman, and certainly we had some very precious times together in the last 7 weeks, and she was so proud to relay that it was two men when she was a teenager that believed in her and gave her a start. They saw her true abilities, they saw her potential, and they put their trust and confidence in Hazel and empowered her to a leadership role. They saw that by supporting her and her leading with her ideas and her actions, that there would be a stronger outcome. And boy, were they right. So Hazel was so proud of that, and she's so proud of people that give other people a start and give them encouragement to succeed. And certainly she did that with so many, many people in her life. She was very proud, and she was very humbled that she was a part in the success of others. Hazel lived each day to the fullest. She rose before 6 a.m. If you got up at 7 a.m., she wondered what were you doing. She caught up with the news, she read inspirational stories, she did her exercises, and she set off for a full day. If you spoke to Hazel at the end of the day, she would respond. She would always respond, "I had a great day," because she was with people and she was living a life she loved. She would happily climb into bed at night, and if you did not wish her well quickly before her head hit the pillow, you'd have to wait till the next day. She slept as hard as she worked. Next morning, she was up and ready for another great day, up by sunrise and ready to have another wonderful day. Everybody is gifted, no matter what we do in this world, with 24 hours a day. And we have a choice to make in that day of how we live that day. And boy, did Hazel live those days to the fullest. Hazel did retire from her role as mayor of Mississauga, which she truly loved, but she never retired from her job, which was working with people, her job and her love of working with people. We gave her an office in our building in Mississauga when she retired, so she had something to go to. So she wasn't just going from something, and she went to so many, many things. And she had so much more to do at 101. She had an incredible vision for the future, and as some of the wonderful speakers have said, you know, Hazel may have been quiet before they came, but the adrenaline got flowing, and she was telling them how to fix Mississauga, how to fix Ontario, how to fix Canada. They were already wonderfully strong, but Hazel still had vision to do more and to do more, and she wanted to do more. I'm so very, very thankful that we shared our very special friendship. You know, I trusted her totally, and I hope I brought her comfort, especially as she went through struggles that were so uncommon to her. She was truly committed to giving to people, and even in those last few weeks, as much as we were trying to comfort her, she was trying to comfort us. She still had that desire to help people and to make people feel good. Her greatest joy was the warm words of appreciation from so many people. It brought her great happiness when young people recognized her and approached her for a picture of a few words. She recognized these youth as the future of this country and this world, and the role they had to play in the future. She also recognized 90-year-olds as young people, but that was another side of her. Anyway, it's now up to us to proudly carry on Hazel's legacy. She gave us so much, she left so much, and she would want us to carry on as she lived. She would want us to start each day with a positive vision of a great 24 hours. She would want us to be kind to each other, and she would want us to be kind to ourselves. Hazel's strength was so very, very powerful, and it remains with her family and with everyone who had the joy of knowing her, who is in this building today to pay tribute to her, who's watching on the screen, or who happens to read about her legacy. She touches each and all of us, and we can give her a gift today because she remains in our hearts. And if we need some strength, someday we're feeling a little down, put the hand to the chest and you'll feel her warmth, you'll feel her love, because she is there. Because she truly, her legacy was making each day better for the people that carried on in lives when she was no longer physically with us. So please go to bed tonight and say, I had a wonderful day. I got the honor of celebrating a person who will never be duplicated in this world. And remember that as you go forward, please be kind to each other. And thank you, Hazel. We love you, Hazel.
Hazel asked me to tell you a short story because she had asked me to tell this at dinners and functions for a long time, in small groups, never in a large group. And she thought you'd maybe get a smile from this. When she was, I guess, in her mid-80s, she agreed to be the hostess of a charity fundraising cruise in the Caribbean. And she asked my wife and I, Janice, to join her on that cruise, which we were clearly interested in doing because we have a cottage and it was the middle of August. Anyway, we did. And on the third night out, she said, "Jim, tonight I want you to teach me how to play blackjack." So we sat down at the table and I bought, that wouldn't surprise you, I don't think. I bought 4 $5 chips. I said, put one chip out, and they dealt a hand and she lost. I said, put another chip out. They dealt a hand and she lost. I said, put out a third chip. She said, I don't really like this game so far. She lost. She now had $5 left and she put it, I said, put the $5 out. She said, can I just leave? I said, no, put the $5 out. She put it out and she won. Now she had $10. I said, leave the $10 out. You would have thought I said, cut your arm off. She was not impressed. She did not like this. She left the $10 out. She won. She had $20 now. And I said, now we're getting started. She said, wrong. She picked up my $20 and left the table. She did want me to tell you that. She also asked me if I would speak to you for a moment about her loving family. They're a very close family. And for those of you who don't know them personally, Peter is her oldest son, and he is here with he and his daughter Erica, who is Hazel's only grandchild. Next, there is her daughter Linda, and then we have her youngest son, Paul. And we all know, as does all of Mississauga, that Linda, Peter, and Paul have sacrificed a great deal of their time during their lives for their mother for decades, while she shaped the future of Mississauga and looked after all of us. So let me tell you a little bit about what each of them has done recently to assist their mother in her twilight years. Peter lives just around the corner from Hazel, and he arrived every morning. Every day he came down to the house and prepared a healthy and nourishing breakfast for his mother. And since she gave up driving her driver's license, which we were all grateful for, he drove her to every event that she continued to attend with regularity. Just last December, when she wanted to attend the Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference in Ottawa, Peter said, no problem. And he drove her up to Ottawa, stayed there during the conference with her, and then drove her back home. Her daughter Linda, yes, I agree. Thank you, Peter. Linda has an interesting horse farm in Pushlinch, where she rehabilitates injured racehorses. When Hazel decided it was time for a new puppy in her life to replace her beloved Missy, it was Linda who took the puppy and trained her for a couple of months before introducing Saga to Hazel. By the way, Hazel's first of 3 German Shepherds was aptly called Hurricane. followed by her beloved Missy, named for Mississauga. And not to be outdone, when her third puppy came along, it was named Saga to round out Mississauga. She never stopped marketing the city, did she? In case you're wondering, Saga has now relocated to spend the rest of her natural life with Linda on the farm. Paul and Marie, as Hazel passed the 100-year mark, became increasingly concerned about her living alone. They set up a security system that included cameras positioned throughout the house and a large monitor system in their home to alert them if she had a fall or a health issue while at home alone. The system gave Hazel, Paul, and Marie a comfort level regarding her health and well-being while living alone. In the last few weeks, when Hazel lost her mobility, Paul went out and acquired a number of bird feeding stations that he hung in the backyard, just outside the family room where they had large sliding doors, so that Hazel could watch from her bed, which was now in the family room. She could watch the birds in the morning. It brought her great joy to watch the wildlife just outside her door. And there was no greater or no prouder grandmother than Hazel when her granddaughter Erica chose a political career as part of a campaign staff in Toronto in the political offices of one of the national parties. She subsequently worked as a staff member in municipal elections, and her grandmother spoke absolutely warmly of how proud she was of Erica's growing organizational skills as she matured and she chartered her own life course. There is no question, ladies and gentlemen, that Peter, Linda, and Paul, along with Hazel's late husband Sam and Erica, were the people who paid the greatest price for Hazel's 58-year community political involvement. Remember, before Hazel was a politician, before she was a councillor in Mississauga, before she was the mayor, and before she was a councillor and then the mayor in, previous to that in Streetsville, she was the mother of 3 young children. And I would suggest to all of you here today that we all owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to the entire family for the sacrifice that they made for Mississauga. Lest any of you misunderstand me and think that I'm suggesting that she wasn't a mother, a wonderful mother, who made sure she was home every night for dinner. Even if she had an evening meeting, she would come home, have dinner, and go back to the council chambers or go to the community meeting where she told the people to stop complaining and whining and get on with life. Erica is now a young woman building her own life and career, but she has never known a time when her grandmother didn't have a completely full calendar of events and obligations concerning our city. It is absolutely clear that this family gave up a great deal, so their mother and grandmother could look after all of us. One could easily say that the McCallion family are indeed the first family of Mississauga. If you asked all of Hazel's children to comment on her life in politics and building this community, they would all tell you how proud they are of their mother's and grandmother's accomplishments and the respect that she has earned throughout her lifetime. The same can be said for her late husband, Sam, who was himself a dedicated community driver. Many times over the years, he ended up being both mother and father, as he was the glue keeping the family together, while his loving wife split her time between family and Mississauga. Sam was a great, wonderful parent, a loving husband, a local businessman, and a complete support system for whatever challenge Hazel was involved in conquering at the time. He also paid a great price for Hazel's career. So I would like to say to Peter, Erica, Linda, Paul, Marie, and the late Sam McCallion, on behalf of all of the citizens, we truly thank you for your lifelong contributions and sacrifices that your family has made while your mother and grandmother spent her entire life working tirelessly on our behalf in what we call our home. Over the weekend, I had the pleasure of speaking in a telephone conversation with Erica about her grandmother, and we discussed my comments here today and my thoughts on the family sacrifices throughout their entire lives. Erica wanted you to know that it wasn't all about sacrifice. It was also about how proud they all were, and the hundreds and thousands of people that they met, and the places they went, and the things they saw, and the things they did because of her grandmother's lifelong commitment. The pride and joy that they felt and the friends that they made far outweighed, in her mind, any sacrifice that they made along the way. Those are powerful and strong words from a bright young woman speaking of her grandmother. These stick together. Now, as most of you know, and it isn't coincidental, by the way, Hazel loved music, and most of you know that, but it isn't coincidental that we had, at the opening of the Living Arts Centre, Anne Murray, and one other year we had Rita McNeil, her two favorite singers. And some of you might know that her absolute lifelong favorite song was Danny Boy. As a special guest and as part of one of the things in the final chapter of this service, we've invited a young lady named Nicolina here today. She's kind of like Madonna, Cher, and Hazel, one name. Nicolina is a 20-year-old Canadian singer-songwriter from Vaughan, who appeared on season 20 of American Idol in 2022. She became the first Canadian ever to make it to the top 5 in the history of the show. Hazel would be thrilled to know that the person to sing Danny Boy is a young person, because that's where her heart always was. In memory of Hazel, she will now perform a rendition of Hazel's favorite song, Danny Boy. Nicolina.
The pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountain side. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. 'Tis you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white and I am dead, as dead I well may be. You'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say an Ave there for me. But I shall hear
In closing, I hope you would give me a moment to thank, you can be seated, to thank a few people who have made this most outstanding and unprecedented event a success. And at the very top of that list is the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau. Prime Minister Trudeau, the clear message that you have sent here today by your attendance and by your kind words speaks volumes of how Canadians view our most famous citizen and beloved mayor. For you to take the time out of what is clearly a busy schedule to spend a day with us it not only honors Hazel McCallion and her family, but it also confirms that every Mississauga citizen and our opinion of Hazel McCallion is shared at the highest level of this country. And that, Prime Minister Trudeau, is comforting, as we all know and we all appreciate you mourning with us. To the Right Honourable Jean Chrétien, I think you have once again come to Mississauga to recognize your friendship with and the accomplishments of Hazel McCallion. We are all honoured to have you with us today, and we truly thank you for your kind words, your sense of humour, the compliment of your attendance, and the honour that you bring to Hazel by being her friend. To the Lieutenant Governor here today, heightens this event to a different level and brings even greater honor to the life and accomplishments of Hazel McCallion, and we truly appreciate you being here. We are also, by the way, appreciative and flattered by your caring that you exhibited in the last month of Hazel's life. Mayor Crombie, your enthusiastic support of what we started some months ago as a City of Mississauga-driven funeral has never wavered, nor has that of your council. Although the mayor and the spare is no longer here, the lessons you learned with Hazel as your mentor will serve you well as you build on her legacy with your own accomplishments. We wish you well. Bishop Andrew, it was important that you spoke today representing the organization that brought Hazel and Sam together at AYPA within the Anglican Church, and where Hazel fine-tuned her moral compass that served her well throughout her life. I'd also like to thank Chief Mabulu, Senator Victor Rowe, and Dave Toyson for their readings, and in particular Dave Toyson for his careful selection of all three readings. The reading, by the way, that Senator Rowe did was from Hazel's autobiographical book. You should pick it up and read it. It's worth every page. Fran Ryder, Peter McCallion, Amy Chan, Kay Unamira looked after Hazel every day during her short period of decline, and they deserve a mountain of appreciation for their commitment every day. Hazel McCallion very much wanted Fran to speak today so that she would all know what a gracious and caring, humble friend Fran has been to her. Speaking at an event like this is not really within Fran's comfort wheelhouse, but she did it for her friend so that you would know how really close they were with a complete mutual support system that they had for each other's careers. Thank you, Fran, for sharing your warm thoughts about a great friend. We would be remiss if we did not thank the Sheridan Choral Singers for bringing their tremendous musical talent to bid farewell to their first and only Chancellor. Thank you kindly for coming. We do obviously have to thank Nicolina, because that kind of a voice is hard to come by. She's very talented and we appreciate it. We will, at the end of this, we will hear from Robert Pilon as he hopes you join him in the singing of O Canada, and thank him for his tremendous contribution, his musical talent, and a friendship that he shared with Hazel. It is Premier Ford who designated this on behalf of the province as a state funeral, with all the honor that bestows on Hazel McCallion. Premier Ford, on behalf of the McCallion family and all of us in Mississauga, we want to mention and thank you for all your ongoing attention in the last month to not only the family, but clearly to Hazel and all her needs, whether they were difficult to achieve or not. You were there for her, and I know they all appreciate it. And one more thing, Premier Ford. If the passing of Hazel McCallion was inevitable, we have you, by your attendance today, but also by declaring this to be a state funeral and sending in enormous, credible, experienced, capable, talented people to pull this together over the last 2 weeks. You've lessened our burden through your kind of acts of kindness and the dedication of the province and its incredible staff to make this all happen. We appreciate, and I don't think we can say thank you enough. I think we're going to hear an announcement about leaving.
Ladies and gentlemen, the men and women of the Honor Guard, made up of Mississauga Fire and Emergency Services, Peel Regional Police, Peel Regional Paramedic Services, and Amassed Pipes and Drums, are now leaving their seats to reform the Honor Guard, which will bid a final farewell to Mayor McCallion as the cortege leaves Paramount Centre. We ask you to remain in your seats as this will be shown on the screens.
Mesdames et messieurs, les hommes et les femmes de la garde d'honneur quittent maintenant leur siège pour reformer le garde d'honneur qui fera un dernier adieu au maire McCallion alors que le cortège quitte le centre Paramount. Nous vous demandons de rester à votre place car cela sera affiché sur les écrans.
Please remain seated while the platform party, when they begin to leave the platform party, the pallbearers, the honor guard, please remain seated until they've departed. We are now going to hear from the Sheridan Choral Singers with their final song. How Great Thou Art.
And now, please rise as you are able for the national anthem and for the departure of the cortege and dignitaries. We kindly ask you remain in place until we advise that the motorcade has departed. You will be able to view the departure on the screens. O Canada will be sung by award-winning stage, television, and recording artist, vocalist, and friend of the late Mayor McCallion, Mr. Robert Pilon.
Et maintenant, veuillez vous lever comme vous le pouvez pour l'hymne national et pour le départ du cortège et des dignitaires. Nous vous prions de bien vouloir rester sur place jusqu'à ce que nous vous informions du départ du cortège. Vous pourrez regarder le départ sur les écrans. Le Haut-Canada sera chanté par le chanteur primé et ami du feu maire McCallion, M. Robert Pilon.
Awesome wonder, consider all the works thy hand hath made. I see the stars, I hear the mighty thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When through the woods and forest glades I wander, I hear the birds sing sweetly in the trees. When I look down from a lofty mountain grandeur and hear the brook and feel the gentle breeze, then sings my soul, my Savior God, to
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain in your seats and turn your attention to the screens for the departure of the motorcade.
Mesdames et messieurs, nous vous prions de bien vouloir rester sur place et porter votre attention sur les écrans pour le départ du cortège.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I please ask you to stay in your seats until the cortege and motorcade has departed. It should only be a few more minutes. Thank you. Please draw your attention to the screens as the motorcade will soon be departing.
Thank you.